A lightweight lens, a fast 1.7 aperture, under 200 bucks. This sounds too good to be true. But really it is not, because today we are talking about this brand new lens from Viltrox, the 25mm 1.7 for Fujifilm cameras. Let's get into the video. So quickly, just as a disclaimer, I got this lens from Viltrox for free to test out and to make content about. I've not shown Viltrox the video that I'm making here before I post it, so this is totally my own honest opinion about this lens. So I've taken the Viltrox lens out for some real-time shooting here in winter cold Copenhagen, so we can see how this lens performs in a real street photography scenario. But before we jump into that section, let's quickly talk about what makes this Viltrox lens special. So first of all, the Viltrox 25mm 1.7 Air is a really lightweight lens with only 170 grams, which is ridiculously low weight and makes it really great for you if you want to carry it on your small little Fuji camera like I have with the XM5. It has a 52mm filter thread and an optical design with 12 elements and 10 groups, including an ED lens, 2 aspherical elements, and 2 high refractive index lenses. What all this means is that it should give solid sharpness and very little aberration. When it comes to the build, it is a bit plasticky. That is what you can expect from a under $200 lens, but I still think that the material here feels premium, and it really helps to make the weight of the lens go down to 170 grams, which is pretty nice. So Viltrox has put a stepper motor in this lens, which means that the autofocus is pretty good, I think. It is quite fast and very accurate, and it has sometimes a little noise, I think, but it is not something that will distract you in any way. Now let's talk about focus breathing. Viltrox claims this lens has minimal breathing, which is great for video shooters. And looking at this test, yeah, it is actually pretty impressive. There is almost no visible change in framing when shifting focus. So we talked about the autofocus, now let's talk about the sharpness of this lens. While me myself, I'm not someone who is going crazy about sharpness and zooming into photos to see how sharp a lens is, it is still nice to see how well this lens performs. And I think it performs pretty well, as most of the new Viltrox lenses are doing. So looking at it, I think it looks pretty sharp at 1.7 in the center. It is less sharp in the corners when we go out and see. If we compare it with f2.8, it gets very, very sharp in the center, but also in the corners, I think. And the change to f5 is hardly noticeable. So overall, this is a really sharp lens from 2.8 to f5, I think, and still very sharp at 1.7 in the center. So while we're at it, let's also look at the bokeh here. So we have some pretty round shapes in the middle here. If we zoom in, we do see some onion rings. On the edge, we see some of these cat eye shapes, but nothing too crazy, I think. While we're at it, let's look at the star shapes that the lens produces at a higher f number. What do you think? Do you like this kind of bokeh results that the lens produces? I think this is pretty smooth. Looking at the image here, there isn't really any noticeable distortion. There might be a little, but it is not that easy to see, and this is definitely something that you can easily correct in any sort of photo editing software. Let's quickly look at ghosting or flaring here. There are some blobs here and there, but it's nothing that I don't mind, to be honest. But when I stop down, it gets this sort of halo ring that might be too much for some, and the flaring is going further out in the corner, which might make this sort of image less useful. So for me, a 25mm on an APC sensor camera is a pretty nice focal length, because this is equivalent to a 38 on a full frame. This is a really nice focal length, I think, because we are like in between what looks most natural to human eyes and still with a little bit of whiteness. so we can capture those incredible scenes out on the street. It simply feels natural to me, at least. It's not too wide and it's not too tight. So this is really perfect for capturing those street moments. So I've taken this lens out with me a couple of times to do some street photography, and I really like it on my Fuji X-M5. It is really lightweight, which works great with this small camera for photos here on the street. And I think the autofocus did perform very well, at least on par with the kit lens that is the only other Fuji lens that I own at the moment. And as you can see on the screen, you can get some decent photos with this lens. So which lens could this compete with? I think for the very popular Fuji pancake lens, this could be a really strong competitor, because this is lighter, it is way cheaper, and then it has a slightly wider aperture with the 1.7. So there you have it. This was my test of the Viltrox lens. What is my conclusion? Well, I think if you're looking for a cheap but still really sharp and great lens when it comes to autofocus, minimal aberration, it's really light, it can stop down to 1.7 and handle low light, then you're searching in the right place, because the Viltrox lens here has it all. Is it a perfect lens? By no means, no, it is not. But for under $200, this is really a steal for a Fuji XF lens, I think. And if you, like me, have the XM5, then this lens pairs really nice with the XM5, and it might be the first prime lens that you should go out buy for your new camera when you're ready to ditch that pretty good kit lens that you got with the camera. I don't know if you noticed the reframing of the shots right now, because I switched from my Sony a7 III to my Fuji camera with the Viltrox lens on the camera, so you can see if there's a difference between a Sony a7S III with a Tamron zoom lens and this Fuji XM5 with the new Viltrox 25mm. Did you spot the difference? So what do you think of the Viltrox 25mm 1.7 there? Are you going to pick this lens up? Let me know in the comments what you think, and also make sure to follow my link if you're interested in the lens. I have provided the link in the description if you want to go check it out. This was all for now, guys. I will see you around. Boy.